Okay, so here we are. We're back. Sorry for the delay. Had There we go. Okay, I think we're good now. All right, so let's set up our. Oh, I think I know what I did. Okay, so let's set up Active Directory. Actually, it's already set up. Cool. So one less thing to do, right? That's always a good thing. So here's our users. Our domain, our local Active Directory domain is homelab.local. Now this is way behind the scenes. This is at the core of the network. Think of the nucleus at the center of an atom, and it is basically providing resources to everything and everyone. And with this, we have integrated LDAP with our firewall and other various resources. So, like applications on our network. So if our users can log in with their standard login account, um, because that's a good rule of thumb. Let's try not to give our users too many passwords, because today's world there is way too many passwords, and it's a lot. And we're going to talk about single sign-on and Office 365 at some point. But right now we have our users. This is default. This is created whenever you build a domain controller. And we have users, we have servers and computers. Now we're probably not going to be using this that much. So here we have something called create demo users, and that is a CSV file. It's already opened up. And basically I took an Excel spreadsheet and modified the contents within that, concatenated various users in this list, so they all had these standard um, UPNs and so on and so forth. And here we have the create demo users, and this is a script. Once I run this, it will create users and populate our Active Directory objects. So each folder here is called an OU, organizational unit. And once everything is said and done, and if it goes well, you'll see user accounts, because we don't want to use the standard users OU, nor do we want to use the standard computers OU. So whenever you add a computer to the domain, it will be added to this organizational unit. We don't want that. Now, what's going on behind the scenes here? In order to make sure this is functioning properly, we have to make sure DNS is set up. And fortunately, DNS is already installed when you build an Active Directory domain controller. And I'm not going to go any further because, yeah. So we already got that running, and our DHCP is also a critical component because for users on our network, we want to make sure that they can access, so if they're a device on our network, like a laptop or a computer, usually a system administrator or a help desk technician or a specialist will build that device and add it to the domain, and it will automatically be included once the admin enters their credentials and registers that device with a domain. In order for that to work, though, DHCP has to be set up correctly, so they can go in and add a computer to the domain if it's on the network. So there are several cases where you don't want to do this, like if, let's say, somebody's using a laptop out in the field for educational purposes. They don't want to, you don't want to set up an account so they can log in and access company resources. No, you would use what's called a local user account on the device itself. So it wouldn't be an Active Directory account. It would be a local user account. Not the best practice, but in certain situations, it's appropriate. In this case, if customers are going to be using it instead of clients or employees, then yes, a local account would suffice. So that's all good, and everything else is good. And what I did was I set up the UPN suffix to be a fake lab environment. So it's called billingsutility.net. Yeah, I know it sounds dumb, but in this case, it's works perfect. There's a domain name registered through GoDaddy.com, and it's hosted through GoDaddy. So once I set this up, we're going to add that to Office 365 and synchronize our users to the cloud. So let's focus on creating them first. So I don't want to go through and create all these users individually because that would take me like 15 years, and I don't feel like doing that. No. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the ISE for PowerShell. And if you're a help desk technician, administrator, developer, anything to do with IT or technology in general, if you haven't heard or used PowerShell yet, you might want to start because it's going to come to a point where you're going to be using it every day. PowerShell is the opposite of Bash. You manage the system from a command line, whereas PowerShell, you can manage the Windows environment from a command line. And Microsoft is just adding all sorts of bells and whistles to it, and it's actually one of the best products they have right now, and it's only gotten better. Unlike their Outlook client, they keep trying to make changes to it and add all these cool things that just make it worse and slow it down. No, PowerShell has actually become very handy for managing an environment. So I will demonstrate how. So we're going to go to that script for create demo users. Well, that's why we're going to save this as create demo users. I see what I did. Okay. There we go. All right, so first thing we want to do is check the execution policies. In order to do that, we will go to get execution policy and list. And we want to make sure it's remote signed, so we can now run this script. And what this is going to do is create these users. All within the CSV. So each user has been migrated to their new respective organizational units with the same data they've had in that spreadsheet. They're going to have their address, their job title, their phone numbers, their emails, their UPNs, user principal names. It's going to take a few minutes for all of them to add. And this is dummy data, by the way. It's nobody real. And we can actually check up on this. So here are the groups we talked about. There they are. They're the users, and they're going to be separated by state in this case. which is good to use the location to enumerate objects or users within your company. So if you have to manage that specific group or user from to a different location, you have that built in. And while we're waiting for this, we are going to okay, so here is the Office 365 trial we signed up for. We are signed in as a system administrator or global administrator. We're going to go to, let's get this over here so I'm not like looking weird. You can't see the back of my bald head or scar. We're going to go to Azure Active Directory. Now we're only going to see one user. Why? Because there's only one user when we set up this tenant, this Office 365 tenant. So what do we have to do? First, we have to synchronize our users from our on-prem Active Directory to Azure Active Directory. So they can access, the users on our on-prem can access software as a service through Office 365 tenant based on the subscription they have. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the Azure Active Directory AD Sync tool. We're going to download that. And that hopefully doesn't take too long. Very cool. And let's get back to the video here. And as you can see, all my users have been created. Let's verify. Very cool. So the only thing it didn't do right, which is okay, was it did not add the new domain, because I literally just set this up. So that's okay. I can go in here and I can modify them in bulk all at once. The homelab.local is actually the actual domain controller. So it's honestly not going to matter because when I synchronize these users, all that matters is Office 365. But we want to make sure it's set up appropriately, so we'll want to go in and change that. We can do that by going all properties, VPN suffix, and we want to select billingsutility.net. And yeah, we want to force these guys to change the password when they first sign in. We're not going to set up login scripts or home drives yet. We're going to wait on that. So now, their username will be, their UPN will be updated to billingsutility.net. So we have the tool downloaded. Alright, so I'm going to copy-paste that. And let's pause this video and pick up on the next one.